on Twitch right now. I'm on my fourth ad, for Christ's sakes. Like, what are you trying to add a boat trailer to your bike here
I,
with
I
all the ad
appreciate
revenue?
that. I don't see any of that ad revenue,
Oh, okay.
unfortunately. So I am a Twitch affiliate, which means that they do run ads when when I stream. If you watch on YouTube, you could also
Yeah,
watch on YouTube or Facebook. I don't know what the ad frequency is. I do know for anybody who's interested on Twitch, and let me know if I'm screaming too loud here.
no, you're
Um,
good.
I have it turned all the way down, so you will get that. Um, you will see some ads, unfortunately, for what I have no idea, and I don't endorse any of those products. But if they're willing to sponsor us, I'll change my mind. Okay, so guys, listen, we are live without a net. Welcome to episode 5 of Old and in the Way. This is a very special episode because we've got our first special guest who's not somebody I grew up with or am related to. So I really not that not that that should discount any of our existing guests, but welcome Eddie to the show. Give us a wave and say hello.
Hi.
Good to have you here.
Hello.
Well, hold on. You said Eddie, and Carlos has been saying Edie. Can you give us the correct
Please.
pronunciation?
I mean, as long as you're saying my name, it doesn't
Uh,
really
what,
matter
what,
how you say
what would you
it. There's many
what would you
variations.
prefer?
My real name is Edurne, so
Oh, that's beautiful.
yeah.
All right, so are we saying Edie or are we saying Eddie? What are we going to agree on right now?
Yeah, what are you most likely to turn around at if somebody were to scream in an emergency?
Yeah.
Shoot, probably Eddie.
Yeah.
All right, we'll go with Eddie then.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Eddie, it is. Welcome aboard. We got a
Thank you.
great topic today. I gotta have to. I can't. You guys getting the music too?
Yep, yep.
All right. Good. I can adjust the volume. So yes, great topic today. Shiny side up, rubber side down, as I was so recently informed, and we're going to talk about that. It's going to be a segue from last episode where we talked about bad rider habits. In addition to having a special guest, we also have a bonus. We're going to talk about bikes under 5K that could fit Scott or any other new rider considering dipping a toe into the motorcycle world and trying to get away with a under 5K bike. So we got that coming up as well, and probably a few other things in between. We're gonna try to keep things a little tighter today, and I want to thank Carlos and Scott already for cracking the whip and keeping me on
A
point.
little tighter? You mean tight in any way, shape, or form?
Yeah, exactly. There's a certain amount of elasticity to our programming right now as it is, and we're trying to get that. But I got to tell you, there is so much that I want to talk about. And Eddie, it's
We're
great.
using our whole ass today, everybody. Not just
Yeah,
half ass,
yeah,
okay?
yeah. No, we brought both. This is a two cheek production today, and we're getting better. We're getting better every day. Sounds like a good name for a song. So
Well, it can't get worse.
yeah, so definitely, I feel doing the show has been, a dream come true, and I feel added pressure because we've got our first guest today. So why don't we start there? And TLC, can you talk to me a little bit and please introduce this wonderful guest that you brought along to be part of our show today, please?
Oh, wow. I have to be careful on this one.
Oh,
Edurne, Edie, yeah, Edie,
I
you
like how
know,
you roll bars, Sensei.
she's
We've
young
already agreed
lady.
on Eddie,
You-
just so you know, Carlos.
Oh,
But okay.
okay, Eddie, okay. I'll have to talk to you later, Scott, Eddie, she's she's a member. She was a member of the Hog chapter, but more importantly, is a person that was a passenger on a motorcycle and developed a love and an appreciation for riding, and that she made the big leap. And and I'll just leave it at that. That she took the leap and she has been on that. So I think that will be good enough. She's now presently also working for Harley Davidson of New York City, which is our sponsor chapter of New York City Hog. But that's I'd rather say how let's throw it in there. The reason I also asked Eddie to join us was because from a perspective, how tall are you, young lady?
I'm 5'11 and a half.
Okay, 5'11. That's tall. That has her own ride. And tell us about the ride that you have. The year, the make, what engine size, etc.
I have Iron 883. from 2022.
Nice.
Nice. Okay. And
I don't know
you,
what that is.
Yeah, for Scott's
Yeah.
benefit and anybody else who might not be familiar with the world's greatest motorcycle, we're not.
I agree.
Go ahead. You could explain, Carlos.
well, Scott, for you,
Hmm.
and it just so happens that the 883 is the entry level Harley that riders start embarking on their Harley Davidson journey. That 883 is the engine size, and it's a Sportster model. It's and usually people want to get.
I said it's the Honda Civic. I'm sorry to interrupt you. It's the Honda Civic of Harley Davidson models. And hear me out before I take any flack for that. Two things.
I wasn't even gonna say that.
Number one, my first car was a 1990 Honda Civic, and when I was in high school, and my if you look at Honda Civics today and as they've progressed, the people who own Honda Civics are incredibly passionate about them. They own them and maintain them for years. They heavily modify them, and as far as cars go, cars do not tend to. You don't see cars, I think, last probably roadworthy as long as motorcycles, maybe, especially Harleys. There's probably something there, but anyway, the way people love and maintain Honda Civics very similar to the way that people maintain motorcycles. And if you look at a Sportster, it's meant to be to give you a pallet, a chassis, a wireframe to start with that you can add.
Platform.
Yeah, you can start with. Very much like a plain Honda Civic, like my Seafoam Green 1990 Honda Civic. You know, Vince, what's his name? What's the guy, the bald guy with the Fast and Furious dude? What's his name?
Vin Diesel.
Vin Diesel. I wanted to say Vin Rames, but anyway.
Vince Diesel, yeah.
Yeah, I drove mine into the ground and had no muffler or any kind of aftermarket parts on it for that matter.
It had
But
no mirrors the last time I saw it as well.
what's that?
It had no mirrors.
No
the last time
mirrors,
I
yeah,
saw it as
no
well. It had
mirrors,
something to do with an ATM. I don't.
Yeah,
I don't
it
remember.
sounded badass coming down the road until you saw it. It was, but anyway, I digress.
Eddie, I just pulled up a Google machine here and Googled 2022 Iron 883. Is that what you have?
That's
It is gorgeous. I love this.
Yeah, and I mean,
Carlos, I
about
want this.
You want? No,
I mean, it's a beautiful bike, and they say that it's a bulletproof engine, so that's why
It is
it's the model
absolutely
that's
badass looking. I'm
building
seeing
around
it in like a desert tan color here, and I
Yeah.
want it.
Well,
And
well,
I
for
looked
your
at a
benefit,
bike,
I'm
a
just here
desert
to be
tan
the
bike like
producer.
that. Yeah.
I don't ride motorcycles. In fact, nobody knows why I'm here. Probably just to keep Jay in line. But I will say this is an awesome looking bike.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree. I mean, it looks a little different than it does in that picture, probably.
That's okay. That's
I
okay.
mean, yeah,
See,
most people modify their bikes a little bit, so
You
I'm
must
on my.
command attention when you ride on this thing because you're not a short woman. This is a
No.
badass looking bike.
I mean, a lot of people like. I get a lot of comments that I'm too tall for the bike. I used to not care so much, but I've heard so many things about the bike and me before I even started riding the bike.
Yeah. People
So
have a lot
when
of
people tell
opinions.
me what I can and can't do with the bike. It's obviously I'm not too tall to ride the bike. I've been riding it for almost a year now.
Yeah.
I have 8,600 miles on it.
Woo.
Oh, nice.
Like what,
In a
August
year.
last summer.
That's awesome. That's really, really awesome.
I'm gonna get I changed the seat, I changed the lights. I had to change the handlebars because I had a little. And what else? Oh shoot. Yeah, next I'm gonna change the shocks, and
What are you gonna do to the shocks?
I'm not 100% sure.
Do you
But
have
it's gonna be a smoother ride. At
Did you add?
least.
Do you have the stabilizer thing on the front there? My
Equalize
bike.
the load equalizer?
Yeah,
Or
my bike
stab-
came with that. Added like an aftermarket Screaming Eagle part that's like a shock
Yeah.
stabilizer or something. I'm
Yeah,
looking.
I'm gonna be adding that.
So what
And,
is
I'm
the?
gonna raise the bike a little bit too,
That's-
so that I can have
Yeah,
straight on it.
Let's say this so that we understand, Scott. What's going on is the fact that she works in a dealership,
Mhm.
and in a dealership, there's a lot of opinions.
oh
you
God,
know?
yeah.
Mhm.
There's a lot of people who have say you should do this, you should do that, and all this. So what's happening is that she has the luxury or the misfortune of listening to everybody who ever owned that same motorcycle and
Yeah.
suggesting to her, I think you should do the following.
Yeah.
Which was another show that we were thinking about, that once we got to your bike, Scott, now we were going to make it to your personality.
Customize it.
To-
That's
to
actually, what Carlos is describing, the phenomenon of, what happens when you buy a motorcycle and the kind of people that are attracted to motorcycles like moths to a flame. That and oftentimes tend to also be the kinds of people who have lots of information and advice to give you. And we're kidding around about it now, but that's the catalyst for why I started this show, because I never had anybody like that growing up in my life. I didn't have that. We've talked about this a bunch of times. So having you guys here, experts, and Scott, helps to fills in that gap. And you can't, once you're in your 40s, this is another show altogether. But making friends and getting to know people is not as easy as it is when you're younger, etc. So this is exactly getting that kind of knowledge, and all those opinions are exactly why we're here. But I want to make sure we continue to get around the horn too and introduce the man. He's in the bottom right, bottom left corner of my screen, but in the center of my heart. Mike Considine, how are you?
I'm good, Jay. How are you?
I'm doing well. So please, if you wouldn't mind letting Eddie and the rest of our viewers know what your chariot is. What are you riding?
I ride an 05 Kawasaki Vulcan 1600 Classic.
Yeah. Whoops, right.
Or as my friend at work said that rides only sport bikes, he calls it the lounge chair of death.
The lounge chair of death? Why is the lounge chair of death? Oh, because you're going off to die on it?
It's long and comfortable, and
yeah.
you sit on it. It's like sitting on a sofa, as opposed to being hunched over the gas tank and screaming down the street.
Yeah, I had, for the first time in a while, just quick side note, I was on a ride, not in the last week because we didn't do weather, but it's been rainy in the winter of our discontent in San Diego. Hashtag pray for San Diego. But I had a bag, like a little bit extra bag on my bike and off the sissy bar. And for the first time, it was like right up to my back, and I was riding, and I actually leaned back for a little bit and felt it there. And then I was kind of like, ooh, I could get used to this. And that's what I was thinking. Now I can see kicking my feet out in front of me on those highway pegs. But I haven't had a backrest before, but we'll have to try that at some point. I don't have a couch of death yet.
If you go on a long trip and you pack something like a backpack, you strap it to the backrest, and that becomes your backrest when you lean on it, and it makes the ride much more comfortable.
Yeah, I promise you I'm not shilling for Harley just because we have a special guest here today, but I happen to have, I bought this when I bought my bike so that I could, put a laptop or whatever in it for road trips my company's got. But it's perfect, and it has like a thing you can buy a bike that hangs on the front of it that you could use as a backrest, or you could fabricate one. Not that I'm recommending not buying the OEM part, but it'll probably, would work pretty well. So that's definitely a good call. Do you have? We'll have to do an entire show on luggage. I love bags. I don't know. That's like a.
Yeah, that's another personal choice. You find out as you ride, like what you need and what you want to bring, and you figure out how to carry it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I put a
bag
small
and
luggage
zip
rack
ties.
on my backrest.
Yeah.
And I use that for carrying food and stuff. If I get takeout,
Yeah.
I'll strap it to the backrest.
Yeah, what kind of we're gonna have to have another topic on that too. I went out the other night and Liz was like, "Can you stop?" And I was like, "What for?" She's like, "Eggs," and I was like, "I don't think eggs would be a good idea." Like, I was trying to think how I would carry them. I'm like, I don't know that that's gonna be what I want to do, but
No, not at the price of eggs right now.
no kidding, right?
Yeah,
Seriously,
exactly.
get
Valuable
jacked in the
cargo.
parking lot walking out with those. So all right, so we've gotten around most of the way around the horn, and last but not least, just to make sure we get through everybody on the show, of course, and because we have a guest this week, Scott. Scott is our we call him El Jefe del Sonido, the boss of sound. Scott is a lifelong friend of mine. He's not a rider. Doesn't even go outside that much, from what I understand.
No, I'm rocking a Husqvarna ST224 snowblower
Yes.
out here in Denver.
Yes, up in
500
Colorado.
horsepower, loud.
Yeah. And that means we've got 3 New Yorkers on the line, 4 New Yorkers, right? One guy in San Diego and one guy in Colorado. So we've got a fairly decent continental spread today.
See, but our goal, what Scott doesn't realize.
Oh, I realize what you're trying to do.
No. You understand? Our collective efforts are going to admit. Would it be safe to say that you have learned in these prior 3 episodes a lot about motorcycles?
I have learned more. I have doubled my knowledge, maybe tripled my knowledge.
And our goal is to take that fictitious virtual money that you gave us, and that hopefully at the end of our series, whatever that is, that you will say, you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to jump on that ride. And you just said you love the Sportsters that these guys have.
Oh, they're nice looking bikes. Yeah, it doesn't mean I want one.
Well, for 5,000, in fact, that's the first of the top 10 bikes for under 5,000. Number 1.
Pocket change.
Well, hold on, Eddie. For your benefit here, Carlos asked me last week if I were to put a portion of money aside and get into a motorcycle hobby, how much would
That's
it be?
how we got
And
to
I
this
said-
number.
I said $5,000. You know, past 5,000, I got, and not that 5,000 is a trivial amount of money. It's not, but I could spend that without too much stress. You know, it's not a $70,000 investment. So I said $5,000 for a used bike. So we just use that as a starting point, and I'm the foil for the everyman, the every person who is thinking
So
of
$5,000
getting into this.
to buy the bike, not total what you're gonna
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Not including my,
It does
my
add
leather
up.
chaps with the fringe. No,
Yeah.
that's a separate budget altogether.
That's a whole nother thing.
Well, yeah. Get those custom made. Well, that, just as an observation as we talk about this, one of the obstacles I think for most people, and speaking from experience, for getting into riding and approaching it, is the barrier of entry. It's just access to a motorcycle, just to sit on one and be around one. And most people, I shouldn't say most people, but I think it's probably some people, a fair amount, don't want to go into a dealership their first time and feel like they're going to get pressured. And it's a different thing when you're going in to look at like a Kia Sportage, or something for your mom or something like that. It's another thing you kind of walk in there, you're not really worried about what the Kia people think. But if you walk into a Harley dealership, I don't know, you probably most human beings are going to have some element of like, okay, this is it can be an intimidating experience.
It's
So,
intimidating.
for sure.
What did you, Eddie, when you bought, we had on a previous show, we discussed the new versus used. What motivated you to get the new? I'm assuming that you bought it new.
I did.
Talk to us about that learning experience and buying experience.
What motivated me to get it new was because I was trying to start a new phase in my life, and I thought the right way to do it is to get a mint condition Harley and just bang it up myself.
Yeah.
And I mean, I knew the way I use things that under a year it would look like someone else had ridden it for 10 years, and man, am I happy I got it new.
That's really interesting because my only
It's
corollary
like a
is a
blank
car.
canvas too.
My only corollary is a car, and when you get that first scratch in your car, you want to throw up. So
Yes.
I don't know. You're bold. You're a bold woman wanting to bang it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like getting it out of the way, though. It's kind of like having an unbeaten streak.
Well,
It's
yeah,
easier.
once
It's
it's
easier
done,
just to
you're
get
like,
that
all
first
right,
L
well,
and
at
move
least I'll
on.
buy this.
True. I remember after my first little incident, it sucked to have the bike kind of get, but like I have a bang on my gas tank. It really sucked, but it kind of made it more mine, and now at least I'm not. Yeah, it kind of brought us closer together too.
Yeah, I don't know what your experience has been, Eddie, but like I think I have like I want things to be pristine, and I do take care of. I'm okay with like gunk and grime and wear and tear and that kind of like patina of use, but I try to keep my stuff nice. And my family would tell you I'm neurotic about it. So definitely, that was the way I approached my motorcycle. And I remember actually when I dropped my bike the first time, and I was feeling frustrated for a variety of reasons about it. And Carlos actually, and I'm not just blowing sunshine at you because you're here, sent me an. I told him about it, and he responded in a way that I don't want to say it surprised me because you were really kind. It surprised me because he was basically like, I wish I had I had the email handy, but it was like, I dropped my bike here. One time I dropped it in front of the club. Another time I was at the White House in a flag raising ceremony. You know, like I ran it into a cake. You know, like he had like all these stories that like humiliating.
On NBC.
Yeah, and then you find out like the more time you spend, and this could be social media, but the more time I spend on like TikTok and Instagram, the more you see everybody's got all these dings and scrapes and somebody in a zip tie holding their license plate on, and it's like there's people who take bikes to shows to show them and like everything on it is mint, and then there's the rest of us, and I think I'm happy being over there.
I don't know if Eddie, do you remember one of my first suggestions to you when I saw you with your new ride?
What was it?
Get off the sidewalk! You lost your skier a mile back.
You know, you had your new ride, and I was looking at it, and what
Engine guard. Did you say engine guard?
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah.
Oh, I forgot to tell you, one of the modifications I've made to my bike is indeed an engine guard, and gosh, am I happy I got it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sensei. You really are the sensei for a reason. Everything you said is
I think they look great too. I have a 72, and mine has a little older style chrome, and it's like a nice smooth kind of look to it. But I like the there's a little newer styles that have like the foot pegs kind of built into them. Those look nice, but I've got to add those on.
I'm looking at it here to understand what the hell you're talking about. It kind of looks like a push bar for the front of the truck.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, got
yeah.
it. All right.
Like elephant ears.
Got
Yeah.
it.
Actually,
Yeah.
you know, I wanted to talk, Jay, you were talking about how you like everything pristine and,
Yes.
and clean. And there's something I always mean to tell people that ride, or new riders, and sometimes I forget, is Armor All is not your friend.
Oh God. Yeah. I'm glad to hear that.
Okay,
Right.
why is this,
Yeah.
Mike?
That's actually
Armor All
that's
is
a
not
good
your friend.
that's a good
And I would give you two examples
please.
of me. When I got my very first bike, you know, it's been all the time waxing it, polished chrome, you know, Armor All the seat, you know, clean it all up. It looks nice. So when I washed it and Armor All the seat, I went for a ride, and somebody pulled out from the curb in front of all the traffic. I slammed on the brakes, and I slid off my seat, up my gas tank, and impacted my handlebars and instrument cluster. And my feet are hanging like a foot off the ground because I'm sitting on the top of my gas tank now. And then the bike just slowly like. So I was able, you know, luckily it wasn't that far a drop. I was able to catch my foot, you know, on the ground.
Yeah.
And like slide back down. I was like, all right, mental note. Wash the Armor All off my seat. Bad idea.
Yeah.
Right.
So
then, like,
you impacted your biological cluster on your engine coil.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It was quite the experience, and that one I wanted to redo.
Yeah. You don't want to do that
And
on a
then,
sport bike. The engine, the gas tank's it's even worse. But go on.
Right. So now flash the second example. Like a couple of years later, and I already know Armor All slippery. Don't want Armor All on the bike. I'm getting on. In Queens, I'm getting on the Van Wyck. There's a ramp off Queens Boulevard. It's just a gentle left.
Notice there's no number.
Yeah. And beautiful day, sunny day, and I'm behind the guy on the bike, and the guy's making the left, and all of a sudden he goes down instantly, just slides right out and hits the ground. And I was like, holy crap, what just happened? You know, I mean, there's nothing on the ground. It's not raining. So I put the flashes on. I blocked it was a one lane, so everybody had to go around us. I get out, I help him up. I'm like, what happened? He goes, I don't know. His bike it washed out on me. So I was looking, and he Armor All'd his tires.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Oh,
And
I know that's a bad idea.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I said, did you Armor All your tires? He goes, yeah, I do it in my car. I'm like, when you do your car, you do the side, you don't do the tread.
Yeah.
On a bike, the whole side is your tread.
Yeah.
So we were grabbing handfuls of dirt from the side of the ramp and scuffing up the tires and everything so he could ride again.
Yeah.
And people don't make that association that I've put oil on my treads.
That is a J. Like I could see myself doing that all day long, and I was this close to doing it. And when I had my first bike, my Suzuki, and I was doing some cleaning on it, and I thought about putting a little shine in the tires, and I had just enough presence of mind to be like, something about this doesn't seem. Let me go hit the old Google machine on this. You get first search results. Like I didn't even have to look at any of them. You could just see like no, and I was like, I didn't think that was gonna work. So
the only time I would say it's acceptable if when we put the bikes up in the winter for a couple of months, you want to wash it, wax it, prep it, put it away. You can armor roll it because you're not going to be on it for
And the rubber?
3 months. And then, like, if you feel it, if it still feels a little slick, you can always take a damn towel, wipe the seat down. You know what I mean? Saddlebags and things like that. But the best thing is just keep armor all away from the bike entirely.
Yeah. That's actually, that's a really good for our topic today. That we don't have like an official
Today's
list.
brought to you by Armor All.
Yeah, don't use it.
Don't.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's a good rider or shiny side up, rubber side down. I think is and we'll call this one for one of our tips. You got to know what you're putting on and in your motorcycle. I'm just going to say for parts in general and maintenance and things like that, whatever it may be, make sure that you are taking care of your bike. You're doing stuff that if you're doing it yourself, make sure you know what the fuck you're doing. And if you're not, make sure you obviously take it to somebody who does. And I'll turn it over for you guys to comment, but I can say I one of my paths to riding in the first place was this kind of romantic dream I have of wrenching on my own bike, in my garage. I have my garage being renovated right now. Once I started riding a few years ago, I was like, nah, that's not going to be what I do for a while. Like I might have a project bike that I play with for a bit, but you picture yourself doing 60, 70, 80 miles an hour on something that tied together. You better be pretty confident in your work because it's not like a car like where something goes south you can be like, oh damn, let me pull over. It doesn't a lot of times doesn't work that way. So Armor All being a great example.
there's not that many things that the bike will need. I mean, you might add cosmetic stuff to it, bolt on, oil change. I'm assuming everybody has a chain.
I got belt drive.
Might have a drive shaft in the trike. All my bikes have always been drive shaft. I've never had a chain. So checking the tension on the chain, is kind of important.
Well, let me ask like this. Let me ask it this way too, since I think Armor All is an example of something not to use. There are much like another thing that I learned, and I don't want to take us too far off the safety side. When I put a windshield on my bike, I was also advised, thankfully, at the last minute by Carlos, not to use anything with ammonia or alcohol in it for a cleaner because it'll screw up the acrylic or whatever it is. The plexi fairing. Yeah, it's a plexi fairing. Yeah, which actually for you should check out.
Similar to helmets, the visors.
Same exact thing. Yeah, even the glasses. So anyway.
What about like a Rain-X or something, Joe?
You don't use Rain-X. You use certain kind of engine cleaners. That's what I was going to... I'll stop talking and let the experts respond. But it seems like my experience thus far has been that there's very specific stuff you're supposed to use for everything. It's not just because they're trying to sell you stuff in a lot of cases. So what do you guys think?
I mean, I know Rain-X is not good for the plastic. I haven't done it, but I know a lot of guys that ride sport bikes. They use Lemon Pledge on the bodywork.
No.
Oh, what?
Lemon Pledge.
I've heard.
Nice,
yeah, I was gonna say. I'm pretty sure I love the way Lemon Pledge smells.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks phenomenal.
It does.
And,
I've heard that too.
They said they've used it on their helmet, on their visors as well, and it helps the water bead up and blow off like Rain-X, very similar to.
On the outside of the helmet.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could see that.
Wait, there isn't like a purpose-made product for this?
Yeah, I mean,
there is.
Is there a Rain-X for motorcycles?
I don't know if there's a Rain-X for motorcycles. I never noticed it. If there is,
I'll get our research department.
Our team of interns.
I used to use years ago. I have a Never Fog. I would put on the inside. On the inside of the visor, so it wouldn't steam up when you were riding, especially like heavy rain or if it got kind of cold. but the newer helmets have a lot of vents now. You can, as long as you're moving, you pretty much have
Yeah.
air going all over.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that's
but,
well. I know for for like I looked when I bought my current bike, my new bike. When I bought my current bike, I looked at what to use, and are there certain things I wanted to be environmentally conscious. I don't want to say just because I didn't want to get I live in Southern California, I didn't want to get browbeat by one of my neighbors for killing the environment, but wanted to make sure also stuff you can use in the sun and things like that. And that's where I started to find out that in addition to the plastics, even when you're cleaning your bike, you have to be very careful about what you get where, and getting not just like Armor All on the tires, but if you're shining things up and doing things later, getting it on your brakes and parts like that. And they say always make sure you go out and hit your brakes really good on your street before you get out in traffic and you need them to get water and stuff out. So. Mm-hmm. I'd say we could call that one big life-saving tip, which is, don't put shite in or on your bike, like for a maintenance standpoint. We can talk about like parts and things like that, but make sure you're putting the right things in it and not on it.
You did the research. Remember when you were asking me that you discovered on your I should say a little bit of rust, or it looked like a little bit of discoloration.
Yeah.
And you were asking about it, and I suggest, I gave you a couple of ideas on how to take care of that, and you followed up on it, right? What was the result of you taking care of rust? Which brings us to the point: if we wash
dry
rides, and there's the old school. You take the hose. You don't want to go in a full impact hose.
Yeah.
More of a spray. You wash it down, and then you got 3,000 rags all over the place, and you do it that way, or you get a little small.
Thank you. I'm so glad to hear you say that, because I have like this. We have a small yard here, and I have a leaf blower, one of those like Ryobi sets that's like all the whatever. And Harley makes a thing called the Hog Blaster. That's basically like a small leaf blower that you can go through and like blow all the water out. And I saw it, and I'm like,
nickname in college, Jay.
Yeah. Yeah, right. So I had to sit there and think for a minute, like, is it dangerous for me to try to just use my leaf blower and try to do it myself? And I did, and it works. It works pretty well for getting the water out,
because it gets in those nooks and crannies that you really, and that's where you want to try to stay. It's not bad washing the ride.
Yeah.
It's making sure it's all those. It's easy to get rid of the rain you see or the water you do see.
Yeah.
In the little nooks and crannies.
It's what you don't see, and that's what you're hopefully with the leaf blower, unless it's somewhat strong enough to be able to take out that spot, and then there's those of saying, okay, after I wash it, now you go ride it, because then now you really get rid of everything that's drying out there. So
yeah. But Scott, what were you gonna say?
I just heard back from our research intern. Rain-X makes a specific formulation called plastic water repellent, and on the front of the bottle there's a picture of a motorcycle helmet and a motorcycle windshield. Now, this is not sponsored by Rain-X, although Rain-X, we are for sale.
Good.
But based on the reviews here, Joey G says it works great on his cycle windshield. So
Joey G.
Joey G. So that's all the information I have, but there are specific formulations.
Well,
that's good to know.
We'll all right. So that's good. Thank you to the Crack Research Department. I think we covered well on the maintenance side that you do not want to put. That you do not want to put
don't wax your brakes.
Right.
Yeah,
and I actually, I live right near the beach, and I have the salt air constantly. So like everything metal here just like erodes as fast as, like, you see somebody buy a new grill, it's like dust the next week. It's so that makes me nervous about checking. Spending a little extra attention on pieces and parts and making sure. I would say treat your motorcycle like it's an airplane. You can't make a mistake and recover from it. So, make sure you got backup plans. I want to go to make sure we have time to get to the bikes under 5K too. Next rider, shiny side up, rubber side down. cornering, and this is probably a topic we could do an entire episode on. I learned SPAT. Does anybody else, before we divulge what this wonderful acronym means, does anybody here, by a show of hands, know what SPAT stands for? No? SPAT, for everybody who doesn't know, stands for speed, position, aim, turn. And this is what I learned when I went through my rider safety course, and why it stuck with me is because I'm a little bit obsessive, and also because they told me that most people, and I said this in the last episode, and this is one of those ugly things we don't like to talk about, but it's probably good to hear, most motorcycle fatalities occur in situations where people fail to negotiate turns. So in my mind, I think if Jay wants to stay alive for as long as possible and keep his ass in the saddle and ride longer, I need to make sure I think a lot about turns, because that's in addition to being visible, is another reason why people get killed on motorcycles. So you think about these things and work backwards, right? So SPAT, speed, position, aim, turn, is something I think about when I go into a turn, and again, we could do a whole episode on this show, but cornering, turns, that's a big area. I saw something this week on Intervention of all shows about driving in corners that I'll come back to. But let me ask the experts and everybody in between, what do you think about cornering, turns? Is this something that you guys think about at all, or you think I'm crazy?
No, it's definitely important. For new riders, I'll usually tell guys, like if they ride with us in a group for the first time, I tell them, you're always better off slowing down before you hit the turn, and then you can accelerate out of the turn, than hitting the turn really fast. That's your speed and position.
Right.
Because not a lot of turns are decreasing radius, which means you may start out at a certain angle, and then it gets tighter. The road will get tighter to finish where it's going. So that's a decreasing radius turn. It's not the same from beginning to end. And if you're going too fast for a really tight turn, which is what's going to end up you're going to be in. And the problem is that a lot of people, I think, are afraid to be heavy on the brakes when they're leaned over, because they're not sure that the bike is as stable as when it's upright.
Right.
So you slow down, take the turn, and then if you see the regular turn it's the same all the way through, you can accelerate anytime you want. But if it gets tighter before it ends, you're not unpleasantly surprised, and all of a sudden you're looking at the wall on the left, getting really close and faster. Like, I'm going way too fast for this turn.
Yeah.
Let me add to that, because one of the bad habits that people don't do or do is not looking through a turn.
Yeah.
Okay. Looking through a turn is crucial. And what I mean by that is, you hear Mike saying about going through that, but you gotta look. Wherever you look, that's where the bike is gonna go. Right. So, as you're going and if you're looking straight ahead, you're looking in that direction of turn, anticipation is very important.
There's a term for that too, isn't there? There's some kind of sight bias or something like that. Like if you look at, if you look where you're going, that's where you're going to go.
That's where you're going to hit. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're riding and you look over to your right, something catches your eye, your bike is going to drift to the right before you even go.
Scott, if you think about
you're going to drift to the left.
Yeah, exactly, and it's amazing how fast it happens. And Scott, if you think of like a MotoGP like super bike, like a high res photo, if you think of a guy or a gal leaned over a bike and they're like looking like that way, like you can see him. That's like you'll see their head looking like opposite or away from the direction where the tire is pointed, and that's usually like looking through a turn. And when I learned, that's how one of the people in the class I was in explained it, and I started looking at pictures and watching people, and you could see how they do that. So, Eddie, what was?
Let me ask you a quick question,
yeah.
though, guys and girls. Sorry, folks,
dudes.
Dudes. You have a gyroscopic effect on a bike, right? So when you're going
people
straight
often
down
tell
the
me
road,
that.
it wants to stand upright, right? But is there a too slow going around a turn because it's going to get real wobbly and want to tip over?
Well,
On your speed, of course.
Yeah, it feels like it to me, especially going left.
You're going to flop over. You're going to flop over.
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing too is a good test for yourself as a rider. like Carlos was saying, you want to look at the end, not
Yeah.
where you are,
Yeah.
right? And that really does work. And you realize it's counterintuitive. You're like, if I'm looking all the way up there,
I'm
what
not
about
looking right
everything in the
here.
middle?
Yeah.
I'm not going to do everything in the middle and come out there, but it really does happen.
Yeah, when I'm
And
not when I'm
you'll
looking through
know-
the turn, meanwhile, squirrels, cans, shit's flying in front of me. What am I
But you know
missing?
what? You still see all of that.
Right.
Out of your peripheral, you'll still see things, but you're looking all the way up at the top.
Right.
You'll know you're not looking far enough ahead if you're in a turn and you have to constantly make corrections, right? So it's like you're making a turn and you're like, oh, I got to make another turn, then I
Yeah.
make another turn, then instead of one smooth sweep.
Yeah.
And what that means is you're looking too close in front of your bike,
Interesting.
right? So you've reached what you were looking at, but you're not finished with the turn.
Yeah.
Now you got to lift your eyes and look like another 40 feet, and like, oh, and another 40 feet. So you're constantly making that turn, looking ahead.
Yeah.
As opposed to if you look all the way at the exit, you're just going to make one continuous ride. And you're going to be like, oh, that was great. I didn't have to make any
And
corrections.
you won't have target fixation, for example.
Target fixation. That's the term I was trying to think of before. Exactly. Yeah. And Scott, to your question when I talked about dropping my bike last episode, that's how I did it. Was I hard squeezed the front brake and fell over like a stone. Whereas they tell you to trail brake going through, which is would have been using my rear brake, which is on your feet. So what I was going to
two
ask,
questions on
Yeah.
that. The front brake. If you front brake too hard, does the rear tire want to come off the ground?
It
No.
depends on if you have PS too.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm
It
also
does have a
imagining most of the weight is there more weight on the rear wheel than the front wheel?
Yeah.
Yeah, it depends. Like if you're, yes, in general, and it may depend a little bit more on the motorcycle. Pretty much everybody here is riding cruisers and not sport bikes, but there are like sport bike, trick kind of riders who will do like like if you throw your weight over the handlebars and jam on the front brakes, you can stand the bike up, but you're not going to do that in traffic.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scott, the takeaway, because I'm gonna keep Jay on the even here.
I like
We got
that.
we got 10 or so, 15 minutes, depends upon what you're looking at there, Jay.
Yeah.
So Scott, your takeaway is the bad habit is the people not looking through a turn. So the fix to that is you have to slow down, look through the turn before you take the turn. That's the
Yeah.
fix to it. Take it away, Jay.
Oh,
That's
and
why I
Jay,
love SPAT.
Jay, this might be a good
Yeah.
spot for you to mention our sponsor.
Yes, exactly. Our sponsor. Who's our sponsor today? Is it
I don't know.
throttleaddict.com? That's right. Visit Throttle Addict with a K. Check it out. You can see it on the screen if you're watching along here. And I like Throttle Addict clothing because it's relatively, I would say, not too edgy for my age group, but it's also motorcycle based, and I love their artwork. The guy who did some of their art also helped us with The Old and the Way. So check them out. Use code THEDUDE and save 15%. Stop looking like a slob. Give that a shot. And also sponsored today by The Dude's Garage. Go to thedudesgarage.com today. Get yourself your Old and the Way and other swag there. We're stocking it up, and for those of you who recently received coffee mugs, we have a new model that's going to be hitting the shelf soon. That's going to be called the Boss. I don't want to spoil it, but look for that coming soon. So,
Yeah, good selection there. I just picked up the Micro Thong Junior.
Yes.
The Old and the Way. It's excellent.
Yeah,
Can't
I
wait
had
for it
to
warm
put
up here.
I created there's a Dude of IB poster, and I had to get that because a guy from Brazil reached out to me thinking that I was somebody on The Curse of Oak Island because I posted something about the TV show on Instagram, and
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
not
it
on the
was a
show,
little
but I will
confusing.
send you a poster anyway. So
No,
go
the
ahead,
other thing,
Mike.
Scott, you were going to ask about is if too much front brake or too much back brake. Usually the optimal is probably 60-40 front to rear in braking.
Okay.
And you can use all your front, and you will most likely never lift the back wheel of your motorcycle. I mean,
Oh,
I've
okay.
done
Yeah,
it at speed, and
I mean,
and
I've
never
done it on
Yeah.
a bicycle.
yeah,
right?
but where it becomes a judgment issue is going to be on the road conditions.
yeah,
So
Ah.
let's say like you're riding and it's wet or it's sandy. You want less front brake and more rear. because if when you grab the front brake, your front tire could lock up and the bike can slide out from you.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas on the dry and everything else, more front brake is better than rear.
And that's a great, Mike. That's a perfect when we talk about another life-saving tip. In addition to spat or looking through the turn, speed, position, aim, turn, things that are going to keep you alive, and we've actually touched on them a couple of times here. More often than not, are road condition problems that can really ruin your day in a heartbeat, which are gravel, could be debris, could
What about
be
sand?
liquid sand, ice, anything that can cause you to lose traction. And
Leaves.
wet leaves, great, yeah. Guy in my club, riding club,
Banana peels.
guy I know,
If you're in
Banana
Mario
Peel
Kart,
do it.
yes.
Like the signs, like around election time, they have like the signs in everybody's yard. Guy I ride with said he hit one of those one day. Was just coming around it, making a turn, saw it, and by the time he saw it, flat on the pavement in front of him, it was too late. His front tire hit it, washed out, and there's just nothing you can do. You're going at that point, so. I would say it's kind of a tip and a half here, which is, know the kinds of road conditions that can spoil your day in a hurry and be prepared to break with them. And Mike, I'm glad that you brought up the 60-40 mix.
Can I add something?
Yeah, please.
To this,
yeah.
if you don't mind.
Please.
I feel like we haven't talked about engine braking at all. And
great. Yeah.
I'm like a engine braking fanatic, because when I started riding, I ruined my brake pads so fast because I was constantly riding the clutch and riding the brakes, and I was so scared. And now, just for economic reasons, I've been practicing engine braking more, and I've just felt so much safer.
Yeah. Well,
I love it.
how many
in all conditions?
did you drive a stick before you learned how to ride a motorcycle?
I'm from Europe originally.
Yeah. So you did.
Yep.
So you grew up driving in the winter, which is another reason.
Correct.
Like that's why engine braking resonated with me because of.
Well, I feel like I really started learning it on the bike though.
Yeah.
But you're right. You're right.
Yeah, well, you know what?
Yeah.
I use it too for hills. Like where I am out, and I'm, obviously in New York you get it too. But anywhere there's steep hills, I don't like riding the rear brake or obviously on the front brake, and so engine braking on hills. But all of these things are, and I'm, I can't remember to keep the show on time. So this is, do as I say, not as I do. But you got to have that mix of, do I go front brake? Do I go back brake? Do I go engine brake? Do I not touch the brake at all? Do I, let...
Also, you forgot to mention counter steering. It's also helpful in the turns.
Yeah, which is what? Tell everybody what counter steering is.
Counter steering is when you tap the opposite steering wheel, from the opposite side of the handlebars than you're turning. That was a weird explanation.
Yeah, so like if you're going into a turn like that, you
just tap it, push it down, and it turns the wheel. It's
yeah. It's kind of like if you take the way I saw this explained, and I can't remember where it was, is and it's based on the shape of motorcycle tires, right? If you take up like a typical paper cup or like a disposable cup, they're somewhat conical in shape. A solo cup will do, and if you lay it on its side, don't put anything in it. If you lay it on its side and then push it, for everybody, it's gonna. You guys can picture this. It's gonna turn. That's what counter steering is. Once you lean it. Yes, please go, Carlos.
Yeah. Let me just to keep Scott on the safety side here, because I think we're getting into the weeds now, because this is assuming that now Scott's been riding pretty good.
Yes,
he's over there. So let's get back to Scott on the safety side. We already got him bad habit number one. He's not looking far ahead in the curve.
I'm looking through my turns.
No armor on the tires.
Okay.
Approaching corners with respect.
One of the things also that folks is not also looking far down the road. And I say not far looking down the road is like anything else. You have to assume that everybody's out to get you.
Yep.
You're out on the assumption that, anything and everything could happen. You don't have the luxury of a vehicle around you. So you really want to not work in a bubble, but looking all around. So the bad habit is, like I said, you're not looking far ahead. So what's the fix? The fix is going to be that you want to have the head on the swivel. You want to have your eyes looking far ahead. You're looking to see that you're scanning. So things like that is what you just want to be a little bit more aware of, and not reach into a comfort level that you assume nothing's going to happen. You have to go with the assumption something could possibly happen, and you want to work on that.
Yeah, it's like next level defensive driving.
And I want to add to the point also that is very crucial, and it's got nothing to do whether it's friction control or steering, is riding at your limits.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Riding at your limit, because you could be with a pack, that suddenly you're in a pack of folks, could be 5-10 people, and your comfort level at that point is 50 miles an hour, 55. And these guys all want to do 75 to 80 because they're comfortable, and they didn't take you into their, planning or recognizing, as the motto goes, you're supposed to only ride as the slowest rider. So you then decide, because you threw your leg over the bike, you make that decision, say, you know what, guys? So always learn to ride at your limit to eventually get to the comfort. I'm saying this also to Eddie, that, when you ride by yourself and then you are now riding with a group, the dynamics change incredibly, especially if you're in a staggered position, if you are drawn out, and then there's cars that don't exactly see you, no matter how many it is. So the moral story is riding at your limits, being honest with yourself, and if that means talking to the group ahead of time, saying, I just got this, I want to ride with you guys, but just be considerate. They should be more than happy to say, you're right, dude.
Yeah.
We're going to go what makes you, because they want you to come back and ride with the group.
Yeah, and I've yet to encounter, for anybody, for the record, I've been the slowest guy in a group before, and I've yet to encounter anybody who's got beef with it. And there are definitely other people that want to get out and go 85, 90 because that's where the bike feels really good, and other people who want to go 65, 70, and you'll find them. And I'm gonna, I'll say for our last safety tip before we move into talking about some bikes that you can get away with for under 5K and look to get to wrap things up. Last safety tip that I will share here is to, and you don't have to do the typical stuff like don't drink and drive or don't be stupid. We didn't talk about some of the obvious things that you can do to stay alive. So definitely keep those kinds of things in mind. And like Carlos said, know your limitations, know what you're capable of. And the last thing I would say is you have to be thinking about what is the worst case scenario and be prepared for it. That is the last best tip to keep yourself in the seat is, expect things to go wrong and be prepared for how are you going to deal with it, and make sure that you're thinking about those things before they happen. And don't give yourself a chance to, get caught with your pants down. It only takes a second, or caught not looking, whatever the appropriate terminology is. So before we jump in and talk about some inexpensive and starter bikes, going back to where we started back at the beginning, I probably
Jay, you know what?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say also, when you ride, leave enough space behind. There's two things: leave enough space behind the vehicle or the truck in front of you that you can see.
Yeah.
Carlos mentioned when you ride in a group, you ride staggered. The reason why you do that is so that you can see further ahead and up the middle and see what's coming. There's nothing that's going to be a surprise.
Yeah.
If you're riding behind a truck, a tractor trailer can drive over a 2x4. You're not going to have as much fun hitting that 2x4 if you're two car lengths behind him. And when you're riding, like if you're riding at night, don't be afraid to use other cars to help you.
Yeah.
Right. So follow a car, let his lights light up way in front of him, and follow him. And this way, because I tell people, the further I can see, the smoother I can be.
Right. Yeah.
So,
I like that.
So when it's dark and you're all by yourself, all right, you got your high beam on, but when the roads take twists and dips, your light's still facing this way until you make the turn. And in a pitch black road, you're not going to know where how soon, how big. Whereas if you're using the car headlights in front of you, now you just extended your vision like 300-400 feet. and
Yeah.
and you'll know like, oh, there's a right turn coming up, there's a left turn coming up.
Yeah, that's really smart. Go ahead, Carlos.
Yeah, yeah, and to Scott, and we're going to have to use this for a table for a future conversation. But you made a comment before about going slowly and making a turn. We're not going to get into it now, but that's when you start learning, you realize what you have, how many controls you have. You have your clutch control on the left side. Your left foot is working the gears. The right hand is working one of the brakes and throttle, and your right foot is there working the brakes there. So it's a constant
And your
ballet.
body too.
And your body
Right.
does that's at the basic general. But what you will talk about later on is then you start learning how to have just enough clutch,
Yeah.
friction control that allows you to then move that bike slowly. And that's where people have to start learning, but that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah, I wanted to say for this and I'll make I feel like I can't, it's like everything I do, I have to turn into work. I'll make an infographic from the Department of Infographics for after this session where they'll capture our tips. But when I think about, I try working backwards, like I said, from what are the things that killed the most people, and that, let's say, all right, so these are things that are going to keep you alive if you try to mitigate it, and be visible was what I thought also along the lines of plan for the worst case scenario. And Mike, you did a good job of explaining that and kind of encompassing it by, giving yourself the right amount of distance, use the cars around you, be seen, be paying attention to what's happening and watching what people are doing, and use, like, one of the things I love having a loud bike is if I'm approaching a car, I'm coming near somebody, yeah, I have a horn, but if I feel like, I want people to know that I'm coming up alongside of them, I can rack it up and make some noise and immediately get people's attention. So that's, same kind of, know how to be seen and be visible and prevent yourself from being in a situation before it happens.
Just a couple of things.
Please.
I just maybe, I mean, neon clothes, like rain clothes, are really visible, and using your night the night light, the bright light on your bike, the night one, what's it called?
The high beams. Right?
High beams.
Yeah, high beams during the day. And then the other thing is, I got a tip from an old rider to do kind of like a zigzag pattern when you're approaching an intersection.
Oh yeah.
Just to increase your visibility, just kind of wiggle in there.
Oh, neat. Yeah.
Because you have more chance of entering the field of vision of other.
Very cool.
And this adds, Scott, to what a separate conversation we'll come back to. You have the ride now. Now you start thinking this is the stock bike, and now you say, what kind of lighting? As she said, maybe you put in extra riding lights. Maybe you put in, bigger mirrors, etc. Things to do that. But let me, Jay, with your permission, I'm going to just list just for the hell of it, because our research department came back with those top 10.
Please.
So Scott, your money got the following, according to research department. We'll start off, as I said. What are the best cheap motorcycles? And the number one is the Harley Davidson Sportster that you fell in love with, and two of our folks there have it there. So you're in good company. Right. I'm not going to read the whole instruction why. Number two, guys. Anybody wants to take a stab at what they think?
Kawasaki Ninja.
Anybody else? Going once, going twice. No? Yamaha YZF R6, a real crotch rocket special there. I won't even read into that why, but I'll just keep on going.
These can't be new prices, though. These are got to be used, right?
Yeah, these are all used prices.
Okay,
yes.
okay.
Number three, somebody's favorite out there, Honda Nighthawk.
Nice bike.
Okay, I've heard of that one.
Okay, it's a general purpose bike. It looks good enough. Your magnificent thighs there, Scott, will move it from side to side. Yep. Number four, Suzuki SV650. It looks like the Nighthawk, except it's done by Suzuki. So, and your favorite, Scott, the Ducati Monster. How can they get a Ducati for under 5,000? I have
like
no
280,000 miles on it.
It's stolen.
Yeah, exactly.
I see. It's a 2014 Monster 696. How about that for $5,000? I think that's your dream bike there. Number 6, my favorite, one of my early rides, Honda Goldwing GL 1500.
Nice.
Wow, yeah, they changed a lot. Number 7, Kawasaki KLR 650. And
That's like
I
a
guess
dual
that's it.
sport bike, isn't it?
yeah,
It's
yeah,
it's
yeah.
a street legal dirt bike. Actually, believe it or not, when I bought my first motorcycle, I went to the dealer. I was torn between the Magna and the KLR 650.
Yeah.
And the reason why I like the KLR is because it's a very tall bike. I sat on that bike and my feet were like perfect on the
Yeah.
ground. And the salesman's like, you don't want that bike.
Yeah.
You want this. I'm like, I don't kind of like the way it sits. I like the way it feels. He goes, no, you don't want that bike.
Oh, you're
And
perfect
I'm
for one of
ready
those
to talk me
adventure
out of it.
bikes. That's like,
Yeah, but you know what? It's still a street legal dirt bike. It
Yeah.
doesn't do anything great. It doesn't do
Yeah.
it doesn't do good. It doesn't do well in the dirt. It
yeah,
doesn't do great on the ground.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's a real compromise. So I'm glad he talked me out of it. And,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
to get a cruiser instead.
yeah. There's a lot of trail like riding around here where I'm at. Like once you get away from the city proper, you're basically out into the desert. So like I see people zipping down my street on dual sports, like all full decked out in gear and off into the sand they go. It's a big thing out here. But so Carlos, those were your bikes under 5K. I have, if you're following along, and you guys may have to take a look at this after if you don't have Twitch open, but for our viewers here, I've got, I took a look at 5 bikes under $5,000 on San Diego Craigslist. And what I want to do is try to help our viewers, new riders, and anybody who's interested, pick out bikes that you don't want to buy. So the first one up that we had here is let's see, go back here. This is and if you're looking on the website, it's a Kawasaki, I think. Looks like a Kawasaki 600. And it's a parts or restore. I had it running, but top end was making chain noise. Transmission shifted good, and it didn't smoke. It's all there. So I'm going to say this is the kind of description you want to steer away from. So yes, this bike works, but transmission shifted good, and it didn't smoke, period. It's all there. It doesn't really go on to say what all is. I'm going to assume it's, parts and title and stuff. So, if it's, that kind of a description, you don't want anything that says for parts or restore. Next one up we have, this is looks like a Yamaha. It's unknown what the engine displacement on this is, but the guy thinks it's a 175. So again, if you're following along on the screen here, you can see this. And let's take a look at the description. Says, this bike is being sold as is. It is currently not running. Okay, that's important. I was recently given this bike as a potential project, but I don't have the time for it. And what this guy should have wrote in here, or person should have wrote in here is, and neither do you. So don't buy this bike from me and take on my sunk cost.
And that bike was listed as under 5,000 or under 500.
Under 1,000. These are actually all under 1,000. Yeah. I got to do better on carrying my notes over from Craigslist, but these ones are all under 1,000. Next up, a 95 Honda Nighthawk 750. This bike is a beauty. It really is. And it's got a little bit of wear and tear on it here. But let's see what the description says. That's what we're talking about here. So you're going to want to avoid this. Okay. 95 Honda Nighthawk. Stay with me. This is kind of a long description. It's actually the very end, like a lot of things that you want to pay attention to. 95 Honda Nighthawk 750. It does run, but the carb may need a carb clean eventually, but it does run good. Battery about 18,000 or 22,000 miles. It comes with a California lean. I'm not trying to pick on this writing if it was, English as a second language or something like that. I'm just trying to say this is how it reads and stay true to that. Paperwork, it is a clean title on file, video of it running on MotorTrad. Must pick up, okay, this is where it gets important. Must pick up with a truck. Bring a truck. Must pick up with a truck, bring a truck, and only if you're ready to buy. Thank you and happy holidays. So still out there. So anybody who tells you have to bring another vehicle to get your motorcycle, that's a red flag.
So Scott, what did you learn from all that?
I learned that I don't want a handy person special when it comes to a bike. I want it to be running.
Wait.
And then I remember you also were complimenting my fabulous thighs. I
Yeah.
remember that.
Last one, we have one more, a Yamaha FJ1200. And this is a good one. So the description says, dashboard turns on, but motor doesn't. This is a guy who's like, okay, what can I say about this bike? That's the lights
Jay,
work,
I-
but the
Honda
bike
Nighthawk.
doesn't.
That was
I-
Honda Nighthawk was in your top 5 list there.
It was, yeah.
Yes.
Not this one, though. You're not going to want
No, no,
this.
no, no.
Jay, I think this is the time where you do your closing remarks
Yeah.
and keeping you on track there.
Yeah, and
Very good.
I will close out too by saying on this note that if there's like we started off in the beginning of our discussion, there are many different ways to approach taking care of your motorcycle and customizing it and buying it, and there are lots of people who will tell you do different things. I would say if you don't have a Sherpa to help you buy your first motorcycle, meaning somebody to go with you and be alongside you, don't buy it off of Craigslist. It just you could save some money, but you really need somebody to help you know what you're doing. So don't buy it off of Craigslist. All right. So with that, I think we covered our two main topics today, and I know that all of us could probably continue talking about motorcycles for hours, but I've already taken up enough of your time. So now we get to what I call the check please or wrap it up portion of the show, and I'm gonna go around the horn real quick and see what's going on. What do you guys got planned? Any riding or other activities for the week ahead? And let's start with Mike. Let's put you on the spot.
No riding. We're expecting snow on Monday night.
Oof.
Monday night to Tuesday, and depending on which weather station you listen to, it'll be anywhere from 0 to 10 inches.
It's a tight
So-
range. Yeah.
So I don't know.
And you
if
guys
the
haven't
city's
gotten
gonna be getting-
bubkiss all year though, so this is like you guys are due for an ass-kicking storm,
Yeah,
right?
we got like a dusting
Oh,
yesterday.
yeah.
It's been nothing, right? So okay, so no riding then. We're on the snow watch.
I only ride in 0 snow.
Yeah.
You don't
Yeah.
have studded snow tires on your bike?
Not yet, no.
Is that a thing? That
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
be a thing, can it?
A lot
I,
of
um,
people
Snow tires for a bike?
don't have those.
I used to ride. I would ride down to low 40s, high 30s, and highway riding in that temperature is painful. It's not enjoyable. It's painful,
Yeah.
right? And as I got older, I jokingly refer to now, I only ride when the weather is higher than my age.
That's good. Yeah, that's a really good gauge. I like that. We have to, as a side note, we have to set up like a shared spot for sharing videos and images and memes that related to our conversations, because I did see a guy or a person had modified a snowmobile with a Harley somehow, and it made me think of our snowblower, not snowmobile, snowblower conversation. So I'll have to find that and send it.
I'd like a Harley sticker for my snowblower if you could provide.
Yeah, I can make that happen. I can see if we
Yeah.
can get you some nice engine
Get
badges
to
for that.
Paint some flames on the side. It's gonna be bad.
Hell yeah, that's it. Yeah, metal that thing up.
Yeah.
Eddie, what do you got going on this week? Anything exciting? And thank you again for joining us too.
I ride all year, every day, except, well, I mean, not when it's snowing. Of course.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, if it's flurries, yeah, I was riding Saturday and
Eddie, you should be telling us about how you were doing what was that the other day? You got dressed up as what? Was that that was New Orleans? You were doing
Oh, a Mardi Gras thing?
yeah.
You were a Mardi Gras girl. What was that all about? Tell us about that.
Yeah,
Fat Tuesday?
on the weekends I work as a Harley Angel. We had
Sweet.
Mardi Gras yesterday.
Nice. Yeah, that's like I don't follow the I don't celebrate Mardi Gras or whatever but I saw the I saw
Yeah.
pictures this morning on the news of revelers, and I realized what time of year. I can't believe this is like one of the problems with living in California is you lose all concept of what time of year it is, and it's
You've got no seasons to demarcate what the time is.
yeah,
It's
exactly.
dry
So I
and
didn't
20
realize
years
that
has
we
gone
were already at that point of the year. So right on. So
But
Okay.
yeah, so this coming week is the ride planning meeting for Hog.
sweet.
I look forward to that.
I'm a nomad.
I'll be riding like normal.
My Harley dealership does not have a Hog chapter, although I live in San Diego County where there are 5 Harley dealerships, so there's definitely one around. But So I do see them out riding around, but my dealership is not quite as active. But I'll have to get to one of those planning meetings. Carlos, what do you got going on?
Yeah, like what you said, I'm looking forward to our annual ride schedule meeting. It's a painful, tedious process, but it has to be done. In which the only way you get the full house is when you promise them free food. That because our other motto, there is the ride to live, live to ride. There is ride to eat to ride motto. Right, Scott? You like
Yeah,
that motto?
I'm in all for that. No problem. Yeah,
No,
spicy shrimp. That's what I'm having tonight.
well, but that's how you're going to get a full house to be able to vote on and submit rides. And that's what we do. We're going to get the calendar out, and then you start going over every Saturday, Sunday during the week, and we painfully go through the calendar until December. We plan out the rides, and there's going to be long distance rides, overnight rides, dealership events that we include in there, and hopefully with a bit of luck, we bang it out and then it gets sent out. So it's a for those new members who've never done it, it's pretty interesting. For us old veterans that have been there saying, "Give me the cheeseburger, hurry up that I get."
Yeah.
Okay, I'll nod and smile and we go there. And
Yeah.
I'll be riding to the event also as well. We're going to be having it at a diner.
That's cool. I love diner food. Man, that's another thing you can't get in Southern California is a good diner. All right, this is not food talk, but that sounds pretty cool. Pretty good stuff. Yeah, I've got less than a month until my ride to Vegas to see T Swizzle and Taylor Swift in Vegas and a couple weeks in March. So I'm getting excited for that. Starting to look at the map a little bit more
and we have to talk about how much stuff you're going to put on for the future episodes.
Yes.
And we have to make it.
Yes.
What are you going to bring?
Yeah.
What kind of stuff you're going to bring? What is essential? What is not necessary? Hold that thought for next time.
Yeah, and what should I look at before? Like, what is worth it to go and service and really take a close look at before you go on a long road trip through the desert, backcountry. So with that,
check your tires. Make sure your tires are good.
Make sure you got your gear packed, and make sure you've got a considerable amount of water. March won't be too bad. I've gone through there in April, and it's like you go through a little sketch of Death Valley between here and Las Vegas, and it's where the world's tallest thermometer is located. I might add, it's quite hot.
Jay, is your bike fuel injected or carbureted?
Fuel injected.
Fuel injected. All right. Because then something that you should carry doesn't take up any space is maybe like 15, 20 feet of wire, 2 pieces of wire in case you ever have to jump start your bike. A lot of time people will leave their bikes an accessory or their light on.
Yes.
And fuel injected bikes typically can't be push started like a carbureted bike.
Yeah.
And
I've heard this
nice
before. I
pull
think
out some wire and be like, you don't have to turn the car can be turned off. Just attach the wires to the battery terminals and jumpstart your bike.
Yeah, interesting. That's a really good. All right, so this is what I'm talking about. I need those. What are the kind of ride and survive tips that'll keep you? We talked about a long road trip, but we can revisit this topic again.
That was something I never thought about. My bikes before were carbureted. I've push started carbureted bikes.
Yeah.
It's not a problem. But when I bought the fuel injected bike, I was asking the mechanics at the dealer. I said, "Can I push start this bike?" He said, "You might get one shot. There might be enough fuel in the injectors." He said, "If you're lucky. Otherwise, no."
I think there's also a security mechanism too on my bike that might prevent it, because I feel like somebody mentioned that as well. But yeah, that's not something, and I only know this because I bought a new tank, and I know the fuel injector sits in the tank on my bike. So like I bought a 4.5 gallon tank that will actually be 4.4 or 4.3, and the only reason I know that is because the guy at San Diego Classics, showed me how like it actually sits inside the tank, so it takes out some of the fuel displaces the fuel.
They also sell, if you wanted to be more self-sufficient, 2 of the guys I ride with, because their batteries died on trips,
battery tenders.
They sell little portable NiCad jump starters for motorcycles.
Oh, really?
You plug them in USB port, and they're like maybe twice the size of a deck of cards.
Is this like a
Yeah,
Harbor Freight thing I think I can get?
No,
Or
well, you can get. I wouldn't get it from Harbor Freight, but
Yeah.
I would.
Hobo freight.
They have them on Amazon.
Yeah.
They can charge your
Yeah.
phone,
I wouldn't
too.
get it from Harbor Freight.
Yeah, I wouldn't buy that from Harbor Freight.
Remember what we said
Um,
about not trusting your life to things that are.
Yeah, I mean, I might use a crescent wrench from Harbor Freight and a hammer, but
Yeah.
anything electronic, I'd be a little leery.
Noted.
But yeah, these guys, like I said, their bikes died. We got them started, and then they bought these little things. Like, yo, that's really cool. It's a small square package, comes with jumper cables. You charge it up. It's actually got little ports you could charge your cell phone off
That's
of it.
sweet.
If
All
your
right,
phone
dual
dies,
use. Yeah.
it takes up like no space at all. And then you don't even need somebody to jumpstart your bike. You like if
I
you're
will-
alone on some deserted road.
Yeah,
can
then you
start
don't have to
your own
wait. I mean, that could be a huge. That's yeah. So we will pick this up. I like, and this is what I want specifically. So give this some thought. These kind of MacGyver-y types of being MacGyver-y, if you don't know, as being as MacGyver-esque in nature. So if something like that. So at any rate, if you guys could think about that, I think for our next episode, we can talk about what are the real kind of crazy tricks that you've learned, like what Mike just described, especially stuff that's got multi-use and doesn't take up a lot of space. That really scratches my itch. So, this is going to bring us to a close. It has been a fantastic conversation with everyone as always. Eddie, thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you.
us and for
Shout
having.
out to New York City, Harley, and Mark Keeling, my bike guy in Garden City.
Yeah, shout out, awesome, Mark, New York City Harley, Garden City,
And follow me on Instagram, Sexy Snail with an I.
All
It's
right,
my
yeah.
rider account.
Sweet. We will put out. We'll put that in the show notes. We'll get everybody's socials in there. And really, thank you for having the courage to come on and hang out with us.
It's my pleasure. Thank
Yeah,
you
and
for
you are
having me.
always welcome back on the show. And I want to
Great.
thank everybody again. Have a fantastic rest of your Saturday. All the best to all your families.
It's Sunday, Jay.
Sunday. That's what I meant.
Ride safe.
Shiny side up.
That's right.
Rubber
Thanks
side
a lot.
down.
everybody.
Cheers, everybody. It was great seeing you guys. Have a great week. Take
Yeah.
care.
Everybody.
Bye.
Right.
You can't touch me now.